Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Lunch Table Podcast. We have been talking about The Mandalorian Season 3 for the past month. Now we are getting into our Season 1 review. I'm excited to talk about this. There's some good notes, there's some bad notes, a little bit of both. So, Akram, why don't we start with your thoughts?
Yeah, so of course there will be spoilers ahead. I am glad that The Mandalorian has returned, but I think it's one of the weaker seasons, unfortunately. There were a lot of good things in terms of themes, but I think it kind of missed the mark with what makes a great episode. Our previous reviews, we said that, oh yeah, this was a pretty well done episode. I remember the first episode, I think I gave it a 7 or so out of 10. It was just because it didn't do much. It was each episode's well-rounded, I'd say, and it's really fun, but is it impactful? Does it really do something for the greater universe of Star Wars? I really don't think so. I think it's just more of an intimate story.
Do you think because it felt like the last two seasons, there was kind of like a quest or a theme, like a journey going on, and this season was kind of more like freeform? I mean, there was kind of a quest in the beginning with Mando's redemption, but then it kind of like concluded like halfway through the season, and then from there it was just kind of like, okay, well, now we're just gonna do, different things with this season.
I think there are certain structures to approach and do a show with. I know that the Arrow, each show had a different villain, but there's a greater villain, and you're just having fun in this sandbox. It's pretty cool. That's how The Mandalorian is. This season was, I'd say, the themes were mature. But of course, since it's still a family-friendly show, you can't really go that hard into it. So it is freeform in one aspect. It's freeform in the spiritual journey. The actual journey is more, I'd say now, monotonous. It's kind of like it didn't really do anything for the greater good. But the spiritual journey, I think they hit it on the head. I think that it resonated with me in a way where I recalled just this country, and I there was like a couple callbacks, like the people coming together, put aside our differences for the greater good, and let's rebuild. I think that's beautifully done and said. It's kind of like the quiet part still remains, and I think that's okay because they didn't want to, just make that the center focus. But I actually would have preferred that to be the center focus. I think that's more memorable. I feel like this season is not so memorable. What's the big deal? Mandalore? That's it? Great. All right. Moff Gideon? Okay, done. But that was all rushed in the last episode. The other episodes, we were just in a concert for Lizzo, and we had some puns with Jack Black. It is what it is. Again, Mando really shined in the Book of Boba Fett, and that wasn't his show. And Mandalorian Season 2, I think, was stronger in the overall show, not themes, but just the actual, journey itself. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I also agree. I feel like out of the 3 seasons in Book of Boba Fett that we've seen so far, I think this is one of the weaker parts of the franchise. And it's not so much in the characters. I think the characters are great, and I think even the writing for these episodes are great. Maybe it was just due to pacing. I don't know. It feels like, I was kind of let down because we waited so long for this season to come out. I don't even remember the last time Season 2 came out. It was probably like pre-pandemic. Mm-hmm. So to see this and to see it like so cut short, it was like, okay, well, now we got to wait another couple of years before the next season, right? I mean, I know we have other Star Wars IPs coming up, but the Mandalorian is a big staple right now, and it's the only thing really like keeping the Star Wars community together. So I'm sure it'll face a lot of backlash, but that's not to say that everything in the show was bad. Let's give credit where credit's due. There were a lot of good things about this season, especially for Bo-Katan, because I feel like a lot of people hated her character in Season 2, and now it seems like she kind of rose out of that hate, and now she's became something of a Joan of Arc figure for the Mandalorians now. And I love where they went with her, the character. I still wish they could have pushed it further. Especially with like the Mythosaur thing, but to see her like break out of her shell into like where she was, like now I'm just thinking of like when she first started in Clone Wars to now, she's had such a great journey as a character. And for Din Djarin, I feel like it's kind of the opposite. I feel like his journey as a character was kind of finished like early in the season too. Now I feel like he's just like there just to be there because it's, you know, his name on the show. And for Grogu, we've talked a little bit about like, you know, how we see him in this show. I still feel like he would have been stronger if he had been left with Luke. I don't know. It just seemed like satisfying to end on that quote. Man, I'm not saying like Grogu should have stayed out of the show entirely because he is an important part of the show, but I feel like we should just had a break with him and then maybe come back to him later. And then maybe this season could have just been about Din and Bo-Katan rebuilding Mandalore, and then maybe after that, that's when Grogu could have came back.
That's interesting that you say. He's a mascot now for Star Wars, and it's cool. I like the personality they give to animatronics, because he, in a sense, he has a similar, I'd say, feeling, like a warm feeling to him, like I would feel with R2-D2 or something, where it's this character where we know what it is, but at the end of the day,
BB-8,
yeah, exactly. It's like, I don't know if they. I don't know. Like, I really love seeing Grogu, and he was there since the very start. It's kind of the personality of the Mandalorian is having Grogu aside. You have this badass character, and you have Grogu with this balance. And it's like the dark side and the light side. There's like a balance, so I kind of like it. I don't mind. I just wish that there were more serious parts, because again, the stakes are kind of removed when you have Grogu in a scene and there's danger around. You just don't feel like, you know, someone's gonna really die or Grogu's gonna get super hurt. This show didn't feel like it had a lot of stakes. I actually, you know, as moviegoers and showgoers, sometimes we want to feel stakes because we want to like really sympathize with these characters. I didn't feel that with the main characters. I actually felt that with the extras in the background. I said, like, I don't want this Mandalorian guy to die. I didn't want this person to die. I felt more of a connection to that. And I think that's probably the problem. Again, you pay attention to the theme because we're in this type of stuff. We enjoy that. But for the average like moviegoer or showgoer, it didn't resonate as much. I'm sure for like a younger kid finally getting into Star Wars, that this will be kind of cool. But when you look back, it's like, this was kind of, I don't know, it's kind of diluted in a sense, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we did have some like cool, unique episodes that took place out of, you know, the main storyline. I think the Dr. Pershing episode was still kind of powerful in a way. Like, some people weren't a fan of it, but I liked that the world building of it, and that was actually like a very ballsy move of them to actually like make a story out of the whole Mandalorian arc. I thought that was like very an ambitious take, if you will. But to kind of explore like the New Republic a bit, because we haven't really touched on the New Republic in this show. Like, this takes place after, you know, the Battle of Endor, and we get like snippets and mentions of like the New Republic, but to see the inner workings of it, I thought was interesting, because we kind of see that it's not the happily ever after that we thought it was going to be after Endor. It was kind of like, well, and if anything, it feels like very relatable and down to earth. It's like, well, there's actually like a lot of problems that come after, you know, this revolution, right? You still have this government that a lot of people, like we mentioned, see it as very weak compared to the Empire. And I thought that was a great, you know, territory to explore. I mean, could it have been, I don't know. Do you think it was right that they included that, or do you think they should have made like a spin-off or another season of it?
For those scenes, I feel like it was more weak. I mean, I talk a lot about, for the MCU stuff, I talk a lot about the directors and this and that, right? Andor did the inner workings of working in the more office spaces or Empire spaces a lot better, right? This show, they didn't do it as good. And so it was like, we get it. The New Republic isn't everything that is made out to be. It's not the best. It's kind of intertextuality with the government these days and stuff. but they could have made it a little bit more serious, a little bit more less cheesy, because there was like a lot of characters that, I mean, they're kind of a little bit funny, like a little bit annoying, right? If they lived in that space a little longer for maybe a few episodes or so, I think that now we could see, okay, this is gray. The problem is each episode is short, and we have to really work with the episode to catch on to certain themes and elements. We were talking about like, oh, the Empire actually succeeds in certain ways, right? It's like some people think about communism, blah, 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 blah. And then here, the New Republic works in other ways too, kind of represents our current government, blah, 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 blah. So, yeah, for the most part, each episode, they went, I think, with one foot in the door, but they didn't actually step through all the way. And that was really unfortunate. I don't know why they were like afraid to do that. Perhaps it could have been because they just wanted to wrap this up. I have a feeling that we are not going to see The Mandalorian for a while now, and this was just to wrap it up. The way how it ended, very open-ended. They just wanted to get this out the way. That's how it felt. And it's weird because you deal with big ideas, and again, the big idea is like coming together out of this huge division and making amends and this and that and changing your idea. But you have to live in that space because those are big ideas. Those are life-changing ideas that we and you, the viewer, go through day-to-day basis. So you can't just like blithely push it off. It's kind of lazy in a way. Unfortunately, again, because I love The Mandalorian.
Yeah, and just I that's why I didn't appreciate the rushed ending, because I feel like now it's like, okay, you left it on an open-ended note, but it's in a happy note, but it's like, now that I'm thinking about like all these questions in my head, like, okay, well, what's going to happen now? It's like, because you have the two factions of the Mandalorians, are they going to get along? Because they're actually still, at the end of the day, two different ideologies, right? One believes in a more conservative view of the traditional Mandalorian way, and one is more like a, neo-modernist kind of group. So it's like, how are they going to coexist in the next season, right? And it's going to start all over again. It's just like, that's how Mandalore fell apart in the first place, was all this civil war. So it's like, did they really learn anything? Did they change as a group? I don't know.
Yeah, sometimes you need, this is throughout history. Sometimes you need a figure or an object or a religion to really bring the people together, because now you're starting the society again. So now you're starting from day one. I left it on a good note. Perhaps it's more of an artificial type of demonstration of how societies will come together in one land. But it doesn't, it's a grand thing, but they did it in such a small way. And contrary to the actual, because you look at, you look, I'm sorry, somebody from Liberia is calling me. You look at at these big ideas, but if you do it like that, it shows no respect.
Yeah, for sure. I will say one thing I did like about the show were actually some of the cameos. And that's one thing I think this show does really well, is, bringing back like some of the old characters, bringing some new characters in. I love that we got to see like live action Zeb. I thought that was really cool. Also, the actor who played Jar Jar as this Jedi, I thought that was such a great way to revitalize his, stance in the franchise. I thought that was so cool.
Yeah, that was really cool. That flashback was really cool. But then again, it's like, we threw it in there just to throw it in there, but it didn't really contribute to the actual season itself. Like, it didn't do anything really. Like in, I think it's season 2 or the Book of Boba Fett? I think it was season 2, right? The Jedi stuff did more, and then plus it set up Boba Fett making a return, helping and whatnot. There was a lot more things, and it mattered. This didn't matter. Perhaps they thought about the end goal first, and they were like, okay, the Mandalore big battle, kill off Moff Gideon, they're going to reclaim Mandalore, but how do we get there? Because we can't just make a movie, so how do we get there? This probably would have been a better movie, to be honest with you, rather than a series or a season, because it was too short. It felt like nothing really happened at the end of the day. The old shows felt like, I'm going to acquire this object and it's really important for my journey. This one felt like they're trying to acquire some loose change. And then there's the object at the end, right? And then the object gets destroyed. So it's like, whatever. What did you think about the Grief Karga stuff too? Like on that planet with the pirates and just everything.
I actually like when we actually come back to certain places and we actually see it's changing. Like season 1, it was this kind of very rogue, like Tatooine-like wasteland with bounty hunters, and I actually did like that Grief Karga kind of changed it over the series progressed because he wanted it to be like more legitimate, and this is a new galaxy, and perhaps that actually adds something to the sequel to see how weak a state the galaxy was in because it was a time of peace, that everybody was just kind of rebuilding themselves, and maybe that's I'm thinking now like this season maybe was just like in a way like set up for the sequels because we saw so many elements of the sequels like in this show. But with the Grief Karga stuff, I didn't mind it. It still feels kind of weird not having Cara Dune in the show. I don't know. I just feel like she was such a pivotal character in season 1. So we didn't even see Bill Burr's character either. I thought he'd make a comeback somehow.
Yeah, a lot of people could have, to be honest with you, to help out or something, or at least go to the planet that Grief Karga's in charge of. Yeah, what do you think about the Cara Dune thing? We haven't talked much about that. I actually like how they handled her departure. They didn't kill her off, so it's still kind of open-ended too. I like how they left it like that. There's a lot more that they could do in the future. They're not backing themselves in a corner as much, so that's great.
Right. I mean, it's a sticky situation, but I think they did it maturely. It was kind of like a decent way to explain like how her character wasn't involved this season. It would just feel weird like next season not seeing her, especially because now she's part of the New Republic too.
Right.
And I guess that's what they're pushing now. They're trying to push this bigger world of what this new kind of world is like. And I was hoping maybe we'd see Boba Fett too, but I guess they're trying to. Well, it's weird because they already mixed them together in his own show, so I thought maybe he'd come back for this season.
Yeah.
It's a weird time for Star Wars right now. It's like there's still like scuffles going on in the galaxy, but there's not really like an imminent threat now. And I don't know if this is good or bad, but maybe it's nice not having the Jedi around. What do you think?
I'm glad they're dead. They're burning in hell.
Good riddance.
Yeah. No, well, like I said before, we can't relate to the Jedi. We can relate to the Mandalorian. They are us. This is it. And when you have that, it's fun to cosplay as them because, again, they're us. And we could live in that space longer. The Jedi are all flashy. For the most part, if you think about it, the Jedi are mostly flashy, right? But I think the time for the Jedi is done. I think now's the time to kind of move on to different things. I think that's what they're trying to experiment with. I know that we have Acolyte. I know that they're going to touch on the Old Republic and the High Republic stuff. That's cool. But there's something very personal about the Mandalorians that I think it resonates with people a lot. Now the Jedi are just, very, very far, few and in between. And what's the great thing about Mandalorians is that each Mandalorian is very distinctive when they're grouped up with others. And each one seems like they can be a main character. When you have the Jedi and the prequels and other stuff, when you have them in the background, you don't really know. They're just all wearing brown robes, this and that. There's only a few that have speaking roles, and it's like, oh, the names for these people. The only way you'll know the people in the background is if you read it in like a visual dictionary. With the Mandalorian, it's like everybody has some sort of level of, just personality. You could kind of tell. And that's what I appreciate. That's why, because everybody in real life wants to be their own main character, right? Everybody has their own, nobody ever wants someone to say to them, oh, you look like this guy or whatever. They all want to feel very like they're the star. And that's how I feel like the Mandalorians are. Each one seems like they're the star. It could be kind of narcissistic in a way because the Jedi is like, for the greater good, we're doing this and we're going to be an ensemble. But the Mandalorians is like, well, yeah, well, I'm one person. I'm like this. I have these certain skills, but I have a land and I have my honor.
Yeah, it's like kind of like when you watch the prequels, it's like, who the main character is. It's obviously Anakin, or right? Like, or you see like, you obviously know who's the leading Jedi, right? But when you see the Mandalorians, maybe it's because they have no faces as well. It's kind of like kind of like what Stan Lee said about like Spider-Man. It's like anybody can wear the mask,
Exactly.
right? Anybody can be this type of hero, and I think that's what I appreciate about the Mandalorian culture. It's like you said, like they all have these skill sets. They're all very like tribal in a way, but they all have like honor and respect, and maybe they have like the best parts of what the Jedi should have been in a way. It's just interesting to see them in this kind of light, because I feel like for all the legends and lore that we've known, Mandalorians, they're kind of like this warrior people that love to conquer. But I guess perhaps now watching this show, it's maybe like a false narrative of their history. Maybe they were actually very peaceful, and they just, maybe there's a few groups that, do their own thing. But for the most part, they just, want to have it seems like they just want their planet back. Like that's all it is. Like even in Clone Wars, I remember like Pre Vizsla said like he wasn't even interested in like taking over the other systems. All he cared about was like Mandalore.
Right.
So in a way, they're very like they're very isolated into their own culture, I guess.
Yeah, and I mean, again, it's just like a representation of us. We're not all bad, and you just have to. The situation is a lot more complex, and you have to know the personal workings of certain tribes and whatnot, and then you could finally see and realize things. At the end of the day, I would hope. I don't know about these days, but I would hope we have each other's backs and this and that. But even what we're talking about right now, it's like we're going real deep with it. But the show, again, you have to work to find that, and I don't like that. I need to find it in better ways, and I hope that they can improve on that. And I also wonder if the next season will it be the last season. I wonder. I have a theory about Grogu that I have a feeling that we might have one more final season, and then Grogu will be retired. And then when Rey's series or movie comes out, we'll see Grogu make a return, and he'll be like older, perhaps Mandalorianized and Jedi-nized, kind of. It'll look really cool. It's like an amalgamation of both. Because they left it so open-ended that it's like kind of, they could keep going, sure, but you have the main threat that went away. You could introduce a new one. Mandalore is good, is secure. All right. So I don't know what's going to happen with the culture now, but it's like, it's going to end up like Dubai, but now it's going to be like, I'm going to go to the Outer Rim, and is it going to now like the meaning be diminished? Is it just going to be fun? Like, oh, look at this. Look at these cameos. Because again, a cameo needs to be earned. That's what Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau said. I don't know anymore if it's going to be earned now that you're making this change where you're going to the Outer Rim. It's kind of like a Johnny Carson show or something like that. It's like, oh, we got the special guest on.
Do you think perhaps it's so coincidental that's Pedro Pascal playing Joel in Last of Us?
Yeah.
Do you think perhaps we could see Din Djarin killed off or die like in a John Wick fashion?
I worry for Grogu. I just don't know. I don't know, because it could happen. I mean, that happened in Star Wars before with a lot of characters, right? I mean, yeah, it could happen. I wouldn't like to see it like that. I for once would actually rather just see a Mandalorian. I mean, it's very honorable too, right? That's the culture. It's like kind of like Paz Vizsla. But I do want to see like the side of a warrior that has done so much and goes away peacefully. There's something very like samurai about that too. It's like one of those old warriors or those Ronins, and they're just like, they're old enough, and that's okay, My thing is like, it just depends on Grogu. It depends on what they're gonna do with Grogu, right? Because Grogu can't pay taxes on his own. So it's like, you know what I mean? Grogu can't live on his own. He's still like a 50-year-old baby. So,
yeah, that was so weird when like he tried to make him take the creed. I'm like, he can't even speak. Like, how the fuck is he gonna?
I thought that was cute though. No, because to be honest with you, he's a baby, but he did do stuff. He did help out though. At least, he's not like, he did help out. So I kind of get that. Again, we say he's a baby, but that's not really a baby. Yeah, It's just an alien that can't talk good.
It's a weird juxtaposition because he's like he's 50-year-old, I guess, mentally, but
like
physically,
you.
I don't know. Yeah, exactly. Like physically, he's 50 years old, but like mentally, he's still a child. So it's like, okay, well then, like you can't have him as a Mandalorian because he obviously, I mean, he has the Force, But like, there's like moments where like he gets tired or sleepy when he is like Sleepy Joe, like, when he uses the Force.
Or me editing
Like,
these videos.
Yeah, he has to take a nap like every time he uses the Force. So it's like you can only use it like so. I did like that one scene though when he like did the same thing from season 1 where he stopped the fire. I thought that was cute.
Yeah.
And they use the same music, but it's like, you know, he can't physically fight. He doesn't even have a lightsaber. Like, how the fuck is he gonna defend himself? He literally got punched by a stormtrooper in like season 1. So it's like, that's why I got scared like with that Praetorian Guard scene, because I was like, oh shit, like he can't really. I mean, that's why I was laughing too, because he was like jumping around like a fucking frog
and is running.
Right. So it's like he can't really like. That's why you have Mando, right? Because he's his protector. It's like,
right.
Once you start giving Grogu, you know, the ability to like defend himself, then you kind of lose the idea that he's this child, right? Which is weird because he looks like so much like a child, right?
Yeah. Well, oh my god, hands down again, this is like one of the perfect creature designs. I love his design, but I mean, I really, there's so much you can do with this character too, and I feel like he has memories of the. That's why I'm saying I think they're gonna utilize him more in a sequel trilogy with Rey. I really do. I feel because he has these I'll say animals. These creatures are they're very wise, right? And he does have memories of the past. I feel like he can bring something that the Jedi lack, which is also Mandalorian culture. There's things that the Jedi lack that the Mandalorians can bring into the new Jedi Order. So that's why I feel like there's a lot more you could do with him, but you have to age him up a little bit. You have to make him more mature. Perhaps to us, he'll seem like a 20-year-old or something like that when he's with Rey. But at that point, probably Djarin will die. But I don't know. Bo-Katan, she's supposed to be like at least 60 years old. So here she looked like she's fine.
She
I don't know.
Using moisturizer like every day.
Yeah, that's the water, the bath water from Mandalorian. I mean, yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess it's weird now because I was gonna ask you like what we could see as a possible like antagonist or threat for season 4.
Mhm.
I think it really depends on Ahsoka, but man, I really thought we would have seen, you know, an intro to Thrawn. I feel like, well, Moff Gideon is a great villain, but it seems like now he's kind of met his end.
Right.
Well, even that we don't know because it was such a like a cliffhanger thing. But I mean, we had pirates in this season too, albeit very Swamp Thing looking pirates. That's the thing. We still have like different pockets of, you know, villains in the Star Wars universe.
Not really. They're all fucking pirates. That's just it. They're all pirates.
That's it. Yeah.
And Kanja Club. That's all you got.
Shit, Mando's gonna fight Davy Jones.
Perhaps, yes. That's who he needs to go after.
He went from Galaxy's Edge to the Pirates of the Caribbean. Right. Shit.
Well, he said he's going to end it like Hunters. Like remember when we did the review? I'm gonna go after instead of Nazis. I'm gonna Imperial, like, you know, whatever. I don't want to keep seeing that though. But hey, listen, if Thrawn doesn't die in Ahsoka, then perhaps that's like they'll team up one final time and that's it. Because again, I don't know how much they want to keep doing with the Empire. I'm getting kind of tired.
Yeah, at this point, the Empire is like so like it's like a joke now. It's a running joke. Like they without Vader or Palpatine or Thrawn, I feel like they're just like a bad joke. Like honestly, like the Stormtroopers are laughable. The Imperial commanders are like they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Like even in Andor, they were kind of like like all over the place. Like I don't know. It's like unless you have like a great leader like Moff Gideon or Thrawn, I feel like the direction of the Empire is like scattered.
The thing is, it becomes tropey because like, oh, we got beat by some villagers that, you know, had someone said some good words and supplied them with a blaster and some rocks and there you go. But it's always like in space, the commanders, you know, it's the Empire. They get beat on that little planet on that little situation. But I feel like the commanders like shut off their walkie-talkies every time something bad happens and they just like dip, you know, and they don't come back for some reason. I was like, are you kidding? There's a lot more. There's an armada of these people. That's why I think it's kind of it's done. It should be done. The big mistake again. The problem was the great thing of Star Wars is you could go back and forth in timelines and whatnot. The problem is you back yourself in a corner with certain elements like the Empire. This is what they do. that's it. We can't really be innovative so much because we had the sequels, and now we have to kind of play into that. We can't
you can only
go out
stretch
of
the
it.
bar so thin before it becomes like, okay, you dive into sequel territory, you dive into original trilogy territory, right? It's like you have to. I mean, that's one thing I do appreciate about this show. It finds ways to be creative with the time era that they're given.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes it just feels like a bit of a stretch, and it's like, oh, okay, well now it's just like, I don't know, it's a little too much, I guess.
Yeah. It is. It is. And then I know Disney is starting to become a little bit more mature. I mean, we'll see more of that a little bit later on. I wonder if in the future they'll try to explore. I don't think they'll do that with The Mandalorian, but perhaps like a different property they'll try to. I think it was very hit or miss. It was hit in sense of idea, but it was miss in sense of application. And like you said, same enemies, different bullshit. You know, it's.
Let me ask you. I mean, this is a big question, but if you had to write this season, like, how would you propose this season should have went?
Yeah, I mean, I would have probably made this a couple more.
Yeah, because I'm sure there's people gonna be like, "Oh, well, you guys are hating on it." Like, so how would you do it? So that's why I'm interested to see like what your thoughts are.
Yeah, probably. Well, so I'd still use Moff Gideon, but in a different light, and I think I would give more time into talking about the inner workings of the New Republic, and show that you can't really rely on them, and also that I'll actually. You know, you have to let your ideas sit more because, again, there's Mandalore. You can't live on there, but these people are disenfranchised, but you don't care about these people. And these people are somewhat religious and somewhat tribal. So the fact that the government doesn't care about that, it's kind of hypocritical. And you're kind of, in a way, almost the same like the Empire because some places are flourishing without the help of the New Republic. I would lay in that territory a little bit, and then I would probably... I'd say I'd probably do more with Dr. Pershing. He was just like a throwaway character. I'd probably touch in the clones a little bit too. If anything, I'll probably set up the next season with like clones or something. And I know it'll be kind of like, oh, we're tired of seeing Moff Gideon. But that's what I would have done. The ending too, I would have had Bo-Katan ride the mythosaur and make it like symbolic of the people. And at the end, probably the mythosaur just lives on Mandalore and it thrives. The mythosaur is symbolic because Mandalore was destroyed, but the mythosaur remained, and they thought it was just a myth. So the fact that the mythosaur is there means that, well, perhaps you guys aren't that good because you killed this beautiful creature, right? Why kill it? So now you change your direction of your faith that we're going to let this live. And that changes the idea and perception from other like people around the galaxy. It's like, oh, these people don't just like kill everything that's true. If this is the last season, that very ending, I think you could do the same, but I think you just have to let each episode be at least an hour long. I mean, look at Andor. Andor was pretty great. And also throw out the whole like Lizzo thing. I like the idea, whatever. If she's not going to play the flute, and if she was a fine actress, albeit, but like, why waste time in these areas? You know what I mean? You have a greater theme and you have greater threats. Why nickel and dime these like cameos? Why, they're not really earned. Like, why do that? You're just wasting time. It doesn't feel like impactful. So I would do more than that. Now, if I were to choose areas, that's a whole different game because that's going to be a lot. So that's what I would do to kind of improve it. They're minor, but I think they'll go a long way. Well, what would you do?
I would love to see, because I feel like Moff Gideon, he is kind of like this Kingpin-esque character in the Star Wars universe.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree, I would have loved to see him, especially because he has Eli Kane already in the New Republic, kind of like working within this. He's kind of like Hydra in a way.
Mm-hmm.
I would have loved to see different Mandalorians come together. Like, yeah, we had Bo-Katan and Din Djarin, obviously, but it could have been cool to see like them with Boba Fett, with Sabine, maybe some Mandos from the past. Like, they're all in different areas of the galaxy, but maybe Moff kind of affects each one in a way. Like, maybe Moff Gideon starts affecting like Tatooine's like economy, and maybe Boba Fett has to step in, and then maybe like, you know, the thing with Thrawn, like Ahsoka thinks it's a lead, but it leads to Moff Gideon, so Sabine has to go check it out, and then obviously Din and Bo-Katan have to retake Mandalore. So I would have loved to see something like that, where like they all kind of have to come together, and then that's how they kind of reunite as a people, right? Because they've been so divided with their different factions and ideologies. But I think once they have a common enemy, it kind of is the glue that kind of unites them together as a people, right? It's not just because they wear armor, right? It's because they all have, you know, traits that make them honorable, and, you know, that's like Djarin said, like character and honor. I thought that would have been cool, so cool to see.
All right.
I mean, I still think this show does a great job as far as storytelling, especially, you know, in the Star Wars universe, especially because this is a weird chapter in the universe between the original trilogy and the sequels. So they're pushing those as much as they can out of this time frame in this franchise. But I don't know. I think this season could have been better. I think we've kind of already seen what it can be in season 1 and 2 and Book of Boba Fett. I think that was peak. Now it just seems like it's kind of running on thin ice as far as like storytelling. The ideas are there, and I think they explore a lot of like the Star Wars universe, like I said, and they still pull from like different areas and continuity and legends too. But I don't know. I think maybe I was just underwhelmed because of how much we've seen previously and how well they did it. So to see it this season kind of let me down a bit. But I mean, who knows? We will see a season 4 because Jon Favreau said he can't really see how this ends. And we still have Ahsoka too. So maybe Din Djarin even makes an appearance in Ahsoka. I don't know. Yeah. Any final thoughts on this season?
Yeah, I think again with the open-endedness, it just depends on how much you respect the actual trajectory of where you're trying to take these characters and their actual character growth. Like, there has to be an end at some point. I don't want to see it. I love The Mandalorian, but if next season is like this season, then it's like, oh, you're going downhill, and then a lot of things won't feel as warranted. So it has to feel heavy, and it has to leave something in you. You know, I always say horror movies, they leave something in you because of the terrifying images, and that's kind of like a lazy way of leaving stuff in you. But when you can find a way to leave like love, or you leave like this idea where you question things, that is when you won. That is when it's most memorable, and that's when it'll live for years. Rather than let the mascot be the face and something that lives in your mind, let the actual story do that. So unfortunately, this, again, if I were to rate this like I rated last time, I would give it an 8 out of 10. The season finale was all right. The whole season as a whole, I probably would give it a 6 out of 10. Yeah.
I'd probably give it a 7, to be honest. I still liked a lot of things in this show. I definitely agree with what you said, like stop with the bullshit in certain episodes. Like, it's too especially like the IG-11 thing, that was such a waste of time, right? Doing all that, and then, you know, it's kind of distracting in a way. I now looking back, I'm not even sure we needed the Dr. Pershing episode. I mean, it was still a cool episode to see, like Coruscant and everything, but I feel like in terms of storytelling, and you only have 8 episodes to tell your story, like trim the fat, and then just focus on the story. So that's what I think next season they should really push for, and push for longer episodes, please. John and Dave, if you're listening to this, I'm like Palpatine. I beg of you. Please give us longer episodes.
Yes.
You know, it's just fun, you know, to get that much screen time, right? Yeah. Or if you're gonna have shorter episodes, at least do them right, and do right by the fans, of course. But yeah, that is all our thoughts for The Mandalorian Season 3. Thank you guys for watching. Be sure to check out our other reviews for this season as well. Check out all our Star Wars content and all our playlists. We have so much content out this month, but Akram, take us away.
Yeah, my goodness, it feels kind of weird to finally finish this episode by episode review series, but we have plenty more coming your way, especially next month. We're gonna have actually a revisited for Star Wars, the 3 trilogies. That's gonna be really exciting.
4th.
Yeah, yep. May 4th. We have a lot of plans for that, but this month we're starting to wrap up but my goodness, we are super busy as always. And again, we're going to try to get plenty of guests and get into different territory, maybe dicey, but stick with us. I think you guys are going to enjoy. But thank you so much for watching this review series. If you have from the beginning, we appreciate you. Thank you so much for your support. And Dylan, say your thing.
Thank you all to our new 300 subs. And until then, guys, this is the way.
This is the way. I'll see you guys.